in case number 2, full goodwill approach. So we have now the allocated excess 106,875. Then we deduct the over under valuation of assets and liabilities already stated at 31,000. So the difference is the full amount of goodwill equal to 75,875. 75,875. That's at full goodwill. Case number 2. In case number 3, as stated, in case number 3, again, we have case A and B. A, we have the partial goodwill approach. We now begin with fair value of subsidiary, the consideration transferred. The consideration transferred is equal to 239,400. 239,400 consideration transferred. Then we deduct the book value of the shareholders' equity of SS equal to 190,000 times 60%. 190,000 times 60% for recording. Okay? So we have now the book value of the shareholders' equity is 114,000. 114,000. So we now get the difference is the allocated excess of 125,400. 125,400. And then we deduct the over under valuation of assets and liabilities for 31,000. We multiplied that by 60%. We multiplied that by 60%. So the result is 18,600. That's taken by multiplying 31,000 by 60%. So 18,600, that's your over under valuation. And so the difference is your partial goodwill. 125,400 minus 18,600. The difference is 106,800. That's your goodwill partial. 106,800. Then we go to the full goodwill approach or the fair value basis. The consideration transferred in cash is 239,400 given. Then we are going to add the fair value of the NCI. The fair value of the NCI given is 152,000. Given is 152,000. However, this 152,000, we are going to decide which amount are we going to add to the consideration transferred. So, the fair value of the NCI given is 152,000. We are going to compare, okay, compare fair value of the NCI given or the NCI on fair value of the shareholders' equity of S, whichever is higher. So whichever is higher. I'll repeat, compare the fair value of the NCI. This time it's given at 152,000. We have to compare that with the NCI on the fair value of the shareholders' equity of S, whichever is higher. So if we have to choose whichever is higher, now let's try to compute. Okay, we are going to compute for first, the book value of the shareholders' equity of S is 190,000. The book value of the shareholders' equity of S is 190,000. And then we are going to add back adjustments to reflect fair values over or under valuation of assets and liabilities. So we have to add back 31,000. Amo man gyapon that 31,000 that we use to deduct as it is considered as over under valuation of assets and liabilities. So 190,000, we are going to add 31,000. So 190,000, we add 31,000. We get the total of 221,000. That's now the fair value of the shareholders' equity of S. 221,000, we multiply that by the non-controlling interest. 221,000, we multiply that by the non-controlling interest of 40%. So we get 88,400. That 88,400 is what we refer to as non-controlling interest on fair value of the shareholders' equity of S. 88,400. And the rule is we compare the fair value of the NCI given, and the amount given is 152,000. We compare that with the NCI on fair value of shareholders' equity of S. The fair value of the shareholders' equity of S is 221,000. We multiply by 40% the non-controlling interest. The fair value on the shareholders' equity of S is 88,400. Now we compare the fair value of NCI given, which is 152,000. We compare it with 88,400, whichever is higher. Whichever is higher. So the higher figure is 152,000. That's why we are adding 152,000 in the consideration transferred. The consideration transferred is composed of cash, 239,400, and the fair value of the NCI given that we have computed at 152,000. 239,400, we add 152,000. So we now get the total fair value of the subsidiary. The total fair value of the subsidiary of 391,400. 391,400. That's the fair value of the subsidiary. Then from 391,400, we deduct the book value of 190,000. The same book value that we have been talking about. Deduct 190,000. The allocated excess is 201,400. That's the allocated excess. And from the allocated excess of 201,400, we deduct the overvaluation or the undervaluation of assets and liabilities. Amo man gihapon ang 31,000. So the difference is 170,400. That's your goodwill, which we consider as full. Goodwill full. So we have now a letter A, proportionate basis or partial goodwill. We have the amount of 106,800, but the full goodwill is 170,400 for case number 3. For case number 4, the amount paid for is given cash consideration of 322,525. However, given for the 75% interest is 229,500. So 229,500. Case number 4, using the proportionate basis or the partial goodwill approach. Consideration transferred, cash is 229,500 given in the problem. So, consideration transferred in cash, 229,500. Then we deduct the book value of the shareholders' equity of SS equal to 190,000 times 75%. So 142,500. The difference is the allocated excess of 87,000. Then we deduct the over or undervaluation of assets and liabilities at 75% of 31,000. The 31,000 that we initially have in above. So 31,000 times 75%. We now get 23,250. And we deduct it from 87,000. 7,000, the allocated excess, minus 23,250. So the goodwill, which is partial, is 63,750. Goodwill, which is partial, is 63,750. Now we go to letter B of case number 4, using the fair value or the full goodwill approach.
Ma'am, wait lang ma'am,
Yes,
time first,
yes.
ma'am.
Ha?
Ma'am, ang ano, 100, okay na gali, ma'am. Okay na. No, thank you.
Sige. So, can I continue? Ginalagas
Yes,
ko kay masulod kanday hili, diri na sila sa case number 5, no? So, anyway, okay lang sila. Paano na to?
Okay na, ma'am. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
we are still in case number 4. Case number 4 is the fair value full goodwill basis. Fair value full goodwill basis. Okay. Consideration given is 322,525. 322,525. Then we deduct the book value of shareholders' equity of SS, 190,000. The allocated excess is 132,525. We deduct the over-under valuation of assets and liabilities of 31,000. So we have now the full amount of goodwill of 101,525. 101,525. Goodwill full. Okay. Mr. Healy, are you around? Mr. Healy, are you around? I have already 45. 44 minus 39. Okay. 5 are attending from the other class. Okay, so to begin with case number 5, it's where we ended in the previous class. Case number 5, the acquisition price is 205,200. Case number 5, with uh, consideration transferred in cash, 205,200. We add the fair value of previously held equity interest in subsidiary. We already have a formula for this in the previous module. Fair value of previously held equity in interest in subsidiary. 205,200 divided by 60%. 205,200 divided by 60%. So we get 342,000 times 15%. 342,000 times 15%. We add 51,300. This is for the 15% interest in previously held equity interest in subsidiary. We are adding this to 205,200 for a 60% interest. So the total is the fair value of 256,500. 256,500. Then from this, we deduct the book value of the shareholders' equity of SS. 190,000 times 75%. So we have 142,500. Deduct from 206,500. The difference is the allocated excess of 114,000. The allocated excess of 114,000. Then we deduct the over or the undervaluation of assets and liabilities. This time, we have different amounts. We can no longer use 31,000. So allocated excess, 114,000 less over undervaluation of assets and liabilities. So we now provide two columns. Column 1, book value. Column 2, fair value. Column 1, book value. Column 2, fair value. So we have identifiable assets, book value 370,500, fair value 484,500. So 370,500 and 484,500. The difference between fair value and book value is 114,000. We deduct the liabilities. Book value is the same as the fair value, which is 180,500. So there is no increase nor decrease. We get the increase in net assets based on book value. It's 190,000. Based on fair value, it's 304,000. So the difference between 304,000 and 190,000, so 304,000 minus 190,000, the difference is 114,000, then we multiply by 75%. Multiply by 75%. So 85,500. We extend under 114,000, which is the initial allocated excess. So 114,000 being the allocated excess, we deduct 85,500, leaving 28,500 for the goodwill that is partial. The goodwill that's partial is 28,500 in case number 5. Actually, we have a step acquisition here. Then in letter B, we use the fair value or the full goodwill approach. So the consideration transferred, 205,200. We are going to add the fair value of previously held equity interest in subsidiary. That's again equal to 51,300. That's for 75%. And the fair value of the NCI given is 85,500. It's given. Fair value given. So again, we compare it, the higher is the one that we have to use. So 85,500 for the 25% interest of the NCI. So anyway, I'll explain later how we choose 85,500. So adding 205,200 and 51,300 and 85,500, we get the fair value of subsidiary equal to 342,000. That is already for the 100% interest. And we deduct from it 190,000, the book value of the shareholders' equity of SS, leaving the allocated excess of 152,000. So the allocated excess is 152,000. Then we are going to deduct the increase in net assets of this time 100%. So we have the same computations in letter A above. However, this time we have to use 114,000. It's the 100% increase in net assets. So 152,000 minus 114,000, we have 38,000 goodwill in full. Okay, now let's try to explain why we chose 85,500 for the fair value of the NCI. The same rule applying above. The same rule applying above. The fair value of the NCI given is to be compared with the NCI on fair value of shareholders' equity of S, whichever is higher. Again, that's the rule. Fair value of the NCI given or the NCI on fair value of shareholders' equity of S, whichever is higher. So we now compare 85,500. Amo na ang given nga fair value of NCI. We compare that with the NCI on fair value of the shareholders' equity of S, which is computed as follows. The book value of the shareholders' equity of SS is 190,000. And then we add adjustments to reflect over or under valuation of assets and liabilities. We add 114,000. That's the difference between 484,500 and 370,500. So 114,000. Add 114,000 and 190,000. We get the fair value of the shareholders' equity of subsidiary of 304,000. 304,000 we multiply by the non-controlling interest of 25%, we get 76,000. Compare 76,000 with the NCI's fair value given at 85,500. So 85,500 is higher. That's why it's the one used in the fair value above. Nga gin-add sa 205, 200, 51, 300, and 85, 500. Okay. So that's case number 5. We still have 5 minutes? 10 minutes. Okay. So we now proceed to case number 6. Letter A, proportionate basis. Now this time, instead of having goodwill, we have bargain, purchase, gain. So we now begin with letter A. We have your partial bargain purchase. We have the consideration transferred given is 205,000. We deduct the book value of the shareholders' equity of SS, 190,000. We multiply by 75%. Kaya nga ang ownership interest, no? By the way, we are now dealing with 75%. 75, ha? 75. So we now get the allocated excess of 62,500. The allocated excess is 62,500. Then we reflect over or under valuation of assets and liabilities. So we have now your 2 columns again. Book value, fair value. Identifiable assets, book value 362,000. Fair value 462,000. So the increase is 100,000. Liabilities, the increase is 0. So the increase in net assets is 100,000. We multiply by 75%. So you now get 75,000. So 75,000, that's your over under valuation. And we compare that with the allocated excess of 62,500. The difference is the bargain purchase gain, which is partial of 12,500. Actually, this is the reverse of goodwill. And B, we go to the full goodwill or fair value basis. So, by the way, before I'll end, basi ma-ending karon, you refer to the multiple choice problems. Amo nang i-take up tabuas, and tomorrow you go to the YouTube only. Okay, letter B, full goodwill approach, consideration transferred in cash, 705,000, and 205,000. And then we add the fair value of the NCI given, 74,200. We add the total is the fair value of subsidiary, 279,200. We deduct the book value of 190,000. That's the book value of the shareholders' equity of SS, 190,000 deducted from 279,200, leaving the allocated excess of 89,200. Then we have to deduct the over or the undervaluation of the assets and liabilities. We now get 100,000, the same as in letter A, only that this time we multiply 100,000 by 100%. So we have 100,000 compared with the allocated excess of 89,200, the bargain purchase gain. The bargain purchase gain is the full amount of 10,800. The bargain purchase gain is the full amount of 10,800. So again, why did we use the amount of 74,200? 74,200 is the fair value of the NCI given. We compared that with the NCI on fair value of shareholders' equity, again, whichever is higher. So, ang imong 74,200, we compare with 72,500, whichever is higher. That's why we use 74,200. How did we get 72,500? The book value of the shareholders' equity of subsidiary is 190,000, and then we add adjustments to reflect fair value. That's for 100,000. Add, so the total is the fair value of the shareholders' equity of subsidiary. We get the total of 290,000 multiplied by 25%. We now get the result of 72,500. And finally, we compare 74,200 and 72,500, whichever is higher. So this time, we have 74,200. By the way, the third requirement is your elimination entries for cases numbers 1 to 6. The elimination entries for cases numbers 1 to 6. So maybe what I will be doing tomorrow for the third requirement, which is the elimination entries, for problem number 1, I will just post this I-post ko na lang ini ang elimination entries and I will discuss your multiple choice problems, the solutions to the multiple choice problems, numbers 1 to pilato, duro man to kalawig. So whatever is to be completed tomorrow. But take note that your test on Monday will end up to whatever we have discussed. Though we have only 20 multiple choice problems. So in other words, you have a little of everything that we have discussed. So this ends my discussions and Zoom is also ending. So by tomorrow, just refer to the YouTube, but I will be holding a class with the 9 to 11 section. Okay? Good night and enjoy your orientation tomorrow.
Bye, ma'am!
Bye, ma'am.
Bye,
Thank
ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Attend mo orientation, boss. Ang hindi maganda ng orientation law ay
Yes.